The rain was falling hard that night. The sound of thunder rolled through the empty highway as Ethan Cole drove his old truck through the storm. The wipers moved back and forth, fighting the heavy drops that blurred his vision. He was tired after a long day at work, and all he wanted was to reach home before midnight. But then something flashed across the road. A faint blue light there for a second, then gone. Ethan slowed down, his hands tight on the steering wheel. What was that? He whispered to himself. He turned his headlights brighter and looked into the dark forest on the side of the road. At first he saw nothing but rain and shadows. Then he noticed a small figure lying on the ground, barely moving. It looked like a person, but the skin was glowing faintly, almost like moonlight trapped underwater. Ethan's heart began to race. Part of him wanted to drive away, pretend he saw nothing. But another part, the stronger part, couldn't leave someone to die in the cold. He stopped the truck and stepped out into the rain. The wind hit his face, freezing and wild. He ran to the figure and knelt beside it. It was small, maybe the size of a teenage girl, but its body was strange. The skin shimmered with a soft blue glow, and faint patterns like circuits moved under it when he touched its arm. It was warm, too warm, and the skin pulsed gently under his hand. Then the creature opened its eyes. They were wide, pure silver. Reflecting the world like mirrors, it looked terrified, and its voice came out weak and broken. "Help! Please, they will find me." Ethan froze. He had no idea what he was hearing. The voice sounded both human and machine at the same time. "Who will find you?" he asked, his voice shaking. But the creature didn't answer. It coughed softly, a blue mist coming out of its mouth, and then went still again. Ethan looked around when the forest was quiet, too quiet. Then far in the distance, a low hum began. The sound wasn't thunder. It was something else. It was mechanical, deep, and it seemed to come from the sky. Ethan didn't think twice. He lifted the creature in his arms and ran back to the truck. The body was light, almost weightless, as if gravity didn't fully touch it. He laid it gently on the back seat, covering it with his old jacket as he started the engine. A bright blue beam of light flashed through the trees behind him. It swept across the road like a searchlight, burning through the rain. Ethan pressed his foot on the gas pedal and sped away, heart pounding like a drum. He didn't know what that light was, but he knew one thing. It was looking for the creature. The road twisted down toward the valley where Ethan lived. The storm grew stronger, lightning splitting the sky again and again. Inside the truck, the creature made small pained sounds, whispering words in a language Ethan couldn't understand. He glanced at it again, feeling a strange pull in his chest. Whatever it was scared and it needed help. Finally, he reached his cabin near the edge of the forest. He parked the truck and carried the creature inside, dripping rain across the wooden floor. He laid it on his workbench, a messy table filled with tools, wires, and spare parts from his engineering projects. The faint glow of its skin flickered weakly. It was dying. Ethan rushed to get his first aid kit. He didn't know if human medicine would work, but he had to try. He cleaned its wounds, strange cuts that looked more like burns, and wrapped them carefully. Then he connected a small power cell from his lab equipment, hoping it might help somehow. When the power cell touched its skin, the blue light inside the creature's body flickered brighter. The patterns on its skin began to move faster, glowing with life again for a moment. Ethan saw a spark of energy travel from the creature's arm to the power cell. It was absorbing electricity. Its breathing grew steadier, softer. Ethan sat down, exhausted. He looked at the strange being on his table and whispered, "What are you?" The creature didn't answer, but its eyes opened for a second, and this time the voice was clearer. "My name, Lyra," it said slowly. "They will come." Ethan frowned. "Who? Who's coming?" he asked. But before she could answer, a strange sound came from his radio. The device turned on by itself, filled with static. Then a metallic voice spoke through the noise, cold and emotionless. "Human detected with alien life form. Prepare for retrieval." Ethan stared at the radio in disbelief. He turned toward the window, and in the distance, through the rain and thunder, he saw lights moving in the sky, not lightning, not planes. They were coming closer. Scanning the forest, he looked back at Lyra, who was breathing weakly again. Something deep inside told him his life had just changed forever. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Hang on, whoever you are. I'm not letting them take you." Outside, the night roared with storm and engines, and somewhere above the clouds something was watching. The rain had stopped by morning, but the silence outside Ethan's cabin felt heavy and strange. The storm had passed, yet something unseen still moved in the air, like a hidden tension waiting to explode. Ethan sat near the workbench, watching the alien girl breathe slowly, her skin glowing softly under the dim light. He had barely slept, his mind filled with questions that had no answers. When the sun finally rose, a faint mist covered the forest. Ethan walked to the window, his eyes scanning the sky for any sign of those strange lights. The night before felt like a dream, but the figure lying behind him made it real. He turned back and saw the alien, Lyra, now awake, her silver eyes watching him silently. For a long moment neither spoke. Ethan didn't know what to say, and Lyra seemed unsure if she was safe. Her voice finally came out, soft, musical yet trembling with fear. "Where am I?" she asked. "You're safe in my home," Ethan said quietly. "I found you last night in the rain." Lyra blinked slowly, trying to understand his words. "You helped me," Ethan nodded. "I couldn't just leave you there," he said. "But I need to know who you are and what's happening." Lyra looked down, her hands glowing faintly as small blue sparks danced over her fingers. "I am not supposed to be here," she whispered. "They will come for me." "They always do," Ethan frowned. "Who's they?" Lyra hesitated, her silver eyes reflecting both sorrow and fear. "My people," she said softly. "I am Valorian, from the planet Valor." Ethan froze. The word sounded otherworldly, ancient. "You're an alien," he whispered. Almost not believing it himself, Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, but not one they accept anymore." She lifted her arm and showed him strange marks burned into her skin, glowing scars that looked like symbols. "This is the mark of exile," she said, her voice shaking. "I disobeyed the orders of my commanders. I refused to destroy innocent life." Ethan listened quietly, the weight of her words sinking deep. "You mean humans?" he asked. Lyra looked at him with sadness. "Your kind was part of the war a long time ago. We were told you were dangerous, primitive, hopeless." Her eyes softened. "But I saw truth. Your kind fights not for power, but for hope." I couldn't kill that. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He tried to imagine what kind of war could reach between worlds. He didn't know whether to feel proud or terrified. "Why were they chasing you last night?" he asked. "Because I carry something they want destroyed," Lyra said, placing a hand over her chest. Her skin glowed brighter for a moment, revealing faint shapes under it, something pulsing, alive. "I hold the last memory of peace between our worlds," she said. "They call it betrayal, but I call it truth." Ethan leaned closer, amazed and afraid at the same time. "Why come to Earth then?" he asked. Lyra looked toward the window, her expression distant. "Because this is where it began. This is where humanity changed everything. They fear you, Ethan. They fear what humans could become." The room suddenly filled with a faint humming sound. Ethan's radio flickered again, static whispering through the speakers. Then a robotic voice echoed faintly. "Tracking sequence initiated. Signal locked." Lyra's eyes widened. "They found me," she said, panic in her voice. Ethan turned off the radio, pulled the power cables, and shut down every device in the room, but outside, he could already hear a faint metallic buzz in the distance. "They can track my energy," Lyra said quickly. "They can feel my pulse through your machines." Ethan ran to his tool shelf, grabbing wires, batteries, and a broken copper shield. He started building something fast, a small cage made of wire and metal plates. "What are you doing?" Lyra asked. "Building a Faraday cage," he said. "It'll block their signal, hopefully." The sound outside grew louder. Drones, moving through the forest, their lights cutting through the mist. Ethan pulled the final wire and the lights in the cabin dimmed. For a second, everything went still. Then the buzzing sound stopped. "They can't see us," Lyra whispered in disbelief. "You did it." Ethan smiled faintly. "Engineering degree finally paid off," he said with a nervous laugh. But Lyra didn't smile. She looked at him with a strange sadness in her eyes. "You shouldn't have helped me," she said. "They will come for you too now." Ethan shook his head. "Too late for that, I'm already involved." He turned toward the window, his hand on the curtain. Outside, the mist was thicker now, and in that white fog, a red light blinked once, then disappeared. "They've marked this place," Lyra whispered. "They won't stop until I'm gone." Ethan took a deep breath. trying to hide the fear rising in his chest. "Then we move," he said firmly. "We find a way to keep you safe." Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes glowing softly. "No human has ever said that to me." "Before," she whispered. Ethan replied quietly. "Then maybe it's time your people see what humans really are." Outside, the red light blinked again, closer this time. A single mechanical drone hovered beyond the trees. Watching, its lens zoomed in through the fog, recording every move, and in its cold machine memory, a message began transmitting across the stars. "Target located. Human interference confirmed." The morning sky looked calm, but it was only pretending. Ethan stood near the edge of the forest, staring at the faint trail of smoke rising from where his cabin used to be. The place was gone, burned to ashes the night before. He and Lyra had barely escaped through the underground tunnel that led to the old drainage system. Now everything he owned, his tools, his work, his life, was gone. Lyra stood beside him, wearing Ethan's old jacket to hide her glowing skin. Her silver eyes watched the smoke quietly. "I told you," she said softly. "They won't stop." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we won't stop either," he said, trying to sound brave, though fear trembled in his chest. They walked for hours through the forest. Every sound made Ethan flinch. Every bird cry. Every rustle of leaves sounded like metal wings. Lyra walked slowly, weak from her wounds. She whispered sometimes in her strange language, words that echoed softly in the air like music. Ethan didn't understand the words, but he could feel the sadness behind them. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. Ethan led her through the back streets, avoiding cameras and crowds. They found an old storage room behind an auto workshop where Ethan used to fix machines. He covered the windows, locked the doors, and switched on a small lamp powered by his battery pack. Lyra looked around the room with curiosity. So many metal tools, wires, and broken engines filled the shelves. "Is this where humans build their weapons?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "No," he said. "It's where we build things that keep us alive." He sat at the work table and opened his small laptop, hoping to check for any news about the strange lights in the sky, but the screen only showed static. "No signal," he muttered. Lyra frowned. "They block communication wherever they search," she said. "Their drones use interference waves. Your devices won't work," Ethan sighed. "Great. We're blind and deaf now." He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face. "So what do they want from you, really?" Lyra hesitated, then looked at him seriously. "They want to erase what I know," she said. "I carry memories, not just mine, but data, a living code from our old war. It holds truths they fear." Ethan frowned. "You mean you have information?" "More than that," she said quietly. "I have the last record of the human spirit. Your courage, your resistance, your hope. They don't want the galaxy to remember it." Her words hit Ethan like lightning. He had never thought of humanity as something powerful in the universe. But if she was telling the truth, then he was sitting next to a secret worth dying for. Suddenly, a metallic hum filled the air again. The light bulb flickered, and the walls vibrated slightly. Lyra froze. "They've found us," she whispered. Ethan jumped up, grabbing a wrench and pulling Lyra behind the table, through the small crack in the window. He saw a dark shape floating outside him, a silver orb, covered with glowing red lenses. A hunter drone. The machine scanned the building with a thin red beam. It paused for a moment over the metal roof, then moved closer. Ethan held his breath. Lyra whispered something, and the glow on her skin dimmed completely. Her silver eyes went black, blending with the shadows. The drone hovered near the door, its mechanical claws tapping against the wood. Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. He slowly reached toward the power cable near the wall. With one quick pull, he overloaded it. Sparks flew out, and the bulb burst. The drone reacted instantly, shooting a small red laser through the door. "Run!" Ethan shouted, grabbing Lyra's hand. They pushed through the back door and ran into the narrow alley. The drone chased them, its engines screaming. Bolts of red light hit the walls around them. Spraying dust and sparks, Ethan jumped behind an old car, pulling Lyra down with him. "Can you stop it?" he shouted. Lyra shook her head. "Not without energy. I need power." Ethan looked around desperately. Then his eyes landed on an old generator near the wall of the workshop. "Stay down," he said, and ran toward it. The drone turned toward him, charging its cannon. Ethan ripped the generator's wires and smashed two cables together. Electric sparks flew like lightning. Lyra raised her hand. the electricity arcing toward her like it was alive. Her veins glowed bright blue, and her eyes shone like silver fire. She stood up, her voice echoing through the alley. A wave of blue energy exploded from her hand. The drone froze mid-air, its red lights flickering wildly. Then it shattered into thousands of burning fragments. The sound faded, leaving only rain and smoke. Ethan stood still, his heart pounding. Lyra's body swayed. The energy drained her. He caught her before she fell, her skin flickering weakly. "Lyra, are you okay?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "You keep asking that," she whispered. "But I am safe because of you." Ethan looked at the remains of the drone. Among the broken metal pieces lay a small, round chip still glowing red. He picked it up carefully, and words appeared on its surface. "Exile trace. Human involved." Ethan's stomach dropped. He realized this was only the beginning. If one drone could find them, more would follow. He looked at the horizon where clouds glowed faintly blue. "They know I helped you now," he said. Lyra opened her eyes weakly. "Then we must move before nightfall." Ethan nodded slowly, his mind racing somewhere above the clouds. Unseen eyes were watching, and the hunters were already preparing their next strike. The night was colder than before. The wind whispered through the empty valley as Ethan and Lyra climbed the hill toward the old observatory. It stood like a giant skeleton against the stars, its metal dome cracked and covered in vines. To most people, it was just a ruin from the past. But to Ethan, it was a place of hope, a place where he could hide and maybe fight back. They entered quietly. Dust floated in the air like faint ghosts, and the smell of rust filled the room. Ethan lit a small lantern, its glow spreading across the broken computers and shattered glass. Lyra looked around, her silver eyes scanning everything with quiet wonder. "This place used to watch the stars," she said softly. "How long has it been abandoned?" "Almost 15 years, Ethan replied, brushing off a table. "My father worked here once." Before the funding stopped, Lyra placed her hand on the old telescope. Her skin glowed faintly, and for a moment, the rusted metal flickered with tiny sparks. "You humans," she whispered, "always reaching for the stars, even when the stars reach back with claws." Ethan smiled faintly. "Guess we never learned when to stop dreaming." He walked to the control panel and began checking the cables. Most were dead, but he could repair a few connections. He needed power, enough to send a message. A warning, something. If those drones returned, they wouldn't survive another attack. Lyra watched him work, her face calm but her eyes full of worry. "You risk your life again," she said quietly. "Why?" Ethan paused. "Because running isn't living," he said. "And maybe, just maybe, someone out there can help." Lyra hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. "There is no one out there who will help," she said, her voice breaking. "My people don't forgive. They only destroy what they fear." Ethan looked at her. "Then maybe they should start fearing the right people," he said, his voice low and determined. He connected the final wire, and the old satellite console flickered to life. Static filled the screen, lines of code running like nervous lightning. "Come on," Ethan whispered, typing fast. The observatory's antenna groaned and slowly turned toward the sky. For the first time in years, its dish caught the faint hum of the stars. Lyra stepped closer, her glow reflecting off the console. "What are you sending?" she asked. "A signal," Ethan said. "To anyone who's listening, human, alien, doesn't matter." He hit the final key, and a blue wave of light shot from the dish into the night sky. It climbed higher and higher. Vanishing among the stars, Lyra's body shivered. Her eyes went wide as if she could feel the message moving through space. "You don't understand," she said quickly. "You didn't just send a signal, you opened a path." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" She closed her eyes, her skin pulsing brighter. "My people, they will hear this, all of them," she whispered. "Even those who wanted me gone." For a few moments, silence filled the observatory. Then the console beeped softly. A faint reply. Ethan leaned closer. "Someone answered," he said, but Lyra's face went pale. "No," she whispered. "That's not someone. That's them." The console flashed with strange symbols, alien letters glowing across the screen. A cold voice spoke through the static echoing across the room. "Outcast Lyra of Valor, your location is known. Cease resistance and prepare for reclamation." Ethan froze. Lyra backed away, her eyes full of fear. "They're already here," she said. her voice shaking. Outside, the sky darkened suddenly. The stars disappeared behind a thick wall of black clouds that moved unnaturally fast. A low rumble echoed through the air. Ethan ran to the window and saw lights forming in the sky. Hundreds of them. It looked like a storm of fireflies. But each light grew brighter and larger. Ships descending slowly through the clouds. Lyra fell to her knees, her voice came out weak. They didn't come for me alone. They came for all of you. Ethan's chest tightened. He had sent a signal for help. But instead he had called an army. The ground shook as one of the ships passed overhead. Its engines roared like thunder, and the observatory's glass shattered from the vibration. Ethan pulled Lyra behind a metal beam as the roof cracked. The old telescope fell and smashed against the floor, sending sparks everywhere. "We need to move," Ethan shouted. Lyra looked at him, tears glowing like liquid silver. "There's nowhere to run," she said. "Not from this." Ethan grabbed her hand. "Then we don't run," he said firmly. "We fight, or we find another way." Lyra looked up at him, surprised, her voice trembled. "You would stand against the stars for me?" Ethan nodded slowly. "No one gets to decide who deserves to live, not even gods from the sky." The observatory lights flickered again. Outside, beams of blue light searched the ground like giant eyes. One beam paused over the building, locking on. Lyra's glow pulsed brighter, almost painful. "They're scanning me," she said. "They know I'm alive." Ethan pulled her toward the exit tunnel. Behind them, the roof tore open with a sound like thunder. A massive shadow covered the room as something descended. A drone larger than a car. Its red eyes burned through the smoke, and its metallic voice echoed coldly. "Subject located. Initiate termination protocol." Ethan didn't look back. He pulled Lyra into the tunnel as the entire observatory exploded in white light. The shockwave threw them forward, dust and fire chasing behind when they finally stopped. Gasping in the darkness, Ethan whispered, "They found us again." Lyra's eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. "No," she said softly, "they found Earth, and above them, unseen through the clouds, 1,000 alien ships waited for dawn. The world woke up to chaos across cities. People stared at the sky in shock and terror. Dozens of silver-blue ships floated above the clouds, silent and still, like a second sky made of metal. They blocked the morning sun, turning day into a cold, glowing twilight. Ethan and Lyra watched from a hill outside the city. Hidden among the trees, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Every ship was massive, shaped like a crescent moon with lights pulsing along its body. "They came," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with both fear and sadness. Her glowing skin reflected the faint blue of the fleet above. "This is the Valor colony," she said softly. "My people," Ethan stared upward. "You said they'd come for you," he said. "But this is an invasion." Lyra shook her head. "Not invasion," she said quietly. "Retrieval." Her eyes shimmered. They came to erase their mistake, and me, far above. The largest ship began to move, its lower section opened, and beams of light spread across the Earth's surface, scanning every continent. The entire planet trembled under the low hum of alien engines. Communication systems failed, satellites went dark, and human aircrafts vanished from radar. Governments around the world went silent, unsure whether to fight or surrender. Ethan's radio suddenly crackled with static. Then a voice, human this time, and spoke through. "This is an emergency broadcast. Unidentified crafts detected in orbit. Remain indoors, stay calm." Ethan turned it off, his hands shaking. "There's no staying calm," he muttered. "This is the end of the world." Lyra placed her hand gently on his arm. "No," she said. "It is not the end. It is the beginning of something your people have never faced before." He looked at her, confused. "And what's that?" "Judgment," she said softly. "From those who believe themselves gods." Suddenly, a bright column of light shot down from the largest ship. It landed in the middle of the nearby valley, flattening trees in every direction. At its center, a glowing figure began to form, tall, armored, radiant. Lyra's eyes widened. "Commander Siren," she whispered. "He's here." "Who is he?" Ethan asked. "My former mentor," she said. "He taught me everything until I defied him." The light faded, and the figure stepped forward, standing several feet taller than any human. His armor glowed like liquid glass, and his face was hidden behind a metallic mask that reflected the sky. A dozen drones surrounded him, scanning the land. Ethan and Lyra crouched behind a fallen log as one of the drones swept its red beam across the hill. Then Siren's voice echoed through the air. deep and emotionless. Lyra of Valor, you have violated galactic order. Your survival threatens the balance, Lyra closed her eyes, tears running down her cheeks like silver rain. He will not stop, she said. He believes mercy is weakness, Ethan clenched his jaw. He grabbed his backpack and pulled out the small generator he had repaired the night before. What are you doing? Lyra asked. Buying us a little time, Ethan said. He connected wires to an old radio antenna and aimed it toward the valley. The device hummed and began emitting a low-frequency signal. The drones paused mid-air. Confused by the interference, Siren looked up sharply. Sensing the disruption, Ethan whispered, Move now, and pulled Lyra toward the back of the hill. They ran through the trees, branches whipping against their faces. Behind them, Siren raised his hand and the drones exploded into the forest like hunting wolves. Red beams sliced through the trees. Setting them on fire, Lyra stumbled, her energy fading. Ethan caught her and kept running. Come on, he said breathlessly. We're almost there. They reached an old farmhouse on the far side of the hill and slipped inside. Ethan locked the door and looked out the window. The sky was alive with movement, smaller ships descending like insects from a hive. Why send so many just for you? He asked. Lyra sank to her knees, her eyes full of guilt. Because I carry something they lost long ago, she said. Something no technology can create. Compassion. Outside. The ground trembled as Siren's footsteps approached. The metal mask gleamed under the alien light as he stopped near the house. His voice echoed again. This time calm but sharp, human, he said. You have interfered with galactic justice. Surrender the exile and you may live. Ethan stepped forward, his hands shaking but his voice steady. She's not your property, he said. She's not a weapon, she's a person. The commander turned his head slightly. The mask expressionless. You misunderstand your place. Human, he said coldly. You are an accident of evolution. Nothing more. Lyra stood up behind Ethan, weak but resolute. If he dies. You destroy the last proof that mercy exists among us, she said. Her voice echoing with emotion, Siren paused, his tone softening for a brief second. You were once one of us, he said. Now, you stand with them. I stand with life, Lyra said quietly. Something you forgot long ago. Before Siren could respond, a new light filled the valley. Brighter and wider than before, every ship in the sky shifted position. Ethan shielded his eyes as a holographic symbol appeared in the clouds. The mark of the galactic enforcers. A robotic voice thundered across the air. All unauthorized life forms will be purged within one rotation. Lyra's eyes widened. They're going to destroy Earth, she whispered. Ethan turned to her, his face pale but his eyes burning with determination. Then we stop them, he said quietly. No matter what it takes. Siren looked at him for a long moment. And for the first time the mighty commander hesitated. Human, he said softly. You have no idea what you are starting, but Ethan just smiled faintly. Maybe, he said. But it's about time someone started something worth fighting for. Above them, the alien fleet rearranged into attack formation. The countdown to annihilation had begun. The sky burned with light. Alien ships hovered above every major city, forming patterns like stars ready to fall. Their engines hummed with a cold, steady rhythm that echoed across the planet. The world watched in silence, waiting for the end. In a bunker beneath the old farmhouse, Ethan and Lyra crouched near a glowing console. The screen showed countdown numbers and alien symbols moving toward 0. Ethan's hands were shaking as he worked on a network of wires and power cells. Lyra watched him, her silver eyes dim but steady. You cannot stop them, she whispered. They have power beyond any human weapon. Ethan didn't look up. Maybe, he said, but power means nothing without heart. He connected another cable, sparks flying across the room. His idea was reckless, maybe even impossible, but he had no other choice. He wanted to connect the old defense satellites orbiting Earth to the observatory's broken array. If he could link them with Lyra's energy, he might create a global shield strong enough to hold back the first wave of attack. Outside, thunder rumbled, but it wasn't from clouds. It was the hum of alien weapons charging in the upper atmosphere. Lyra closed her eyes. I can help you, she said softly. But using my energy link will drain me completely. Ethan froze for a moment. No, he said, I'm not letting you die. Lyra smiled faintly. I was never meant to live long, she whispered. But you were meant to change everything. He looked at her, unable to speak. All around them, the sound of explosions echoed from faraway cities. The invasion had begun. Ethan tightened his grip on the control lever. "Then let's make your life count for something more than fear," he said. She nodded once, her hands glowing brighter. Together they connected the final wire. Lyra placed her hands on the main power core, her skin blazing with blue light. Electric energy rippled through the bunker, filling the air with the smell of ozone. Her veins lit up like rivers of lightning. The machines around them came to life, their screens flashing rapidly above the bunker. The observatory's broken dish hummed and began to glow again. It turned slowly toward the sky, releasing a wave of pure blue energy. The signal shot upward, reaching the satellites that had been dead for decades. One by one they awoke, their panels unfolded. Their lenses turned toward Earth, and beams of light linked them together. A vast blue grid formed around the planet, the first human planetary shield, created by a single engineer and an alien outcast. But the Valor fleet noticed. The command ship, Siren's vessel, turned its weapons toward the source of the signal. Siren watched from his control chamber, his voice cold but unsure. "Impossible," he said. "No human could achieve this," his second officer replied. "The Exile's energy matches the pattern, Commander." Siren clenched his fist. "She's with him," he said darkly. "End this." The ships opened fire. Massive beams of light fell from the sky. Striking the shield, the earth trembled, oceans rippled, cities went dark. But the blue barrier held inside the bunker. Alarms blared and sparks burst from the control panels. Ethan screamed over the noise. "It's working!" Lyra fell to her knees, the glow from her body flickering. "Ethan," she whispered, "I can't hold it much longer." He ran to her, holding her up. "You're not alone," he said, placing his hand over hers on the power core. The light spread to him, the energy passing through his veins. It burned, it hurt, but he didn't let go for a moment. Human and alien energy became one. The shield grew brighter. The alien beams hit it again, but instead of breaking, they bounced back. The energy reflected. Tearing through the enemy fleet one by one, the smaller ships exploded, fire blooming across the sky like falling stars. Siren's eyes widened behind his mask. He had seen wars that shattered planets, but never something like this. "This shouldn't be possible," he said quietly. His officer whispered, "Commander." "They're fighting back." The fleet began to fall apart. Communication between ships failed. Systems shut down and confusion spread. Some tried to retreat, others tried to fight. None succeeded. On Earth, people ran to the streets, watching in awe as the sky turned from blue to gold for the first time in centuries. Humanity had not just survived, they had won a battle against the stars. Inside the bunker, the lights dimmed. Ethan fell to the ground beside Lyra, both trembling, exhausted. Smoke filled the room, but they were alive. He turned to her and smiled weakly. "You did it," he said. Lyra's voice was faint. "No, we did." She looked at him one last time, her eyes glowing softly. "Promise me something," she whispered. "Anything," he said. "Remember who you are," she said. "You are the species that defied the dark." Her light faded. The machines fell silent. Ethan held her close, his tears falling silently. Outside, the wreckage of alien ships burned across the night sky. Then a faint voice came from the old console. Siren's voice, broken, humbled, human. "Your defiance has changed everything," he said. "We will retreat. But know this, and the galaxy will now see you." The transmission ended. Ethan looked at the ceiling, the stars shining faintly through the cracks. The war wasn't over, but something inside him had changed. He realized this wasn't just survival, it was awakening. And as he stood among the wreckage of the bunker, he whispered to the stars, "Come and see. We're ready now." The blue shield faded, leaving only the quiet hum of a new dawn. Humanity had made its choice, and the galaxy would never forget it. The war was over, but the sky still carried its scars. Broken fragments of alien ships floated like silent ghosts in Earth's orbit, glowing faintly under the morning sun. For the first time in human history, people looked up and saw proof that they were not alone, and that they had survived. Down below, the world had changed. Governments were rebuilding, cities were awakening from chaos, and people everywhere whispered the same question: who saved us? No one knew the full truth. No one knew about the engineer in the mountains, or the alien girl who gave her life for peace. But somewhere in a quiet valley, where the grass had started to grow again over the ruins of the observatory. One man remembered. Ethan Cole sat beside a small grave marked with a smooth silver stone. On it were carved simple words in 2 languages, one human, one alien. Lyra of Valor, she believed in us. The wind blew gently across the field, carrying the faint hum of the old machines that still stood near the observatory. He looked at the horizon, where the morning sun rose slowly, painting the sky gold. She was right, he whispered. They will remember. A soft sound came from behind him. The rustle of grass, the quiet hum of an approaching ship. Ethan turned and saw a small craft descending, sleek and bright, marked with the emblem of Valor. It landed carefully on the hill. Its door sliding open with a faint hiss, a tall figure stepped out, wearing white armor trimmed with blue light. For a moment, Ethan froze. It was Commander Siren. But Siren no longer carried his mask. His face was pale and lined with age. His silver eyes dim but filled with something new. Regret. He approached slowly, his voice calm and heavy. She was not forgotten, he said. Her sacrifice echoed across our colonies. It reached even those who once called her traitor. Ethan stood, unsure whether to feel anger or forgiveness. You hunted her, he said quietly. You called her a danger. Siren nodded slowly. And I was wrong, he said. When I saw the shield, when I saw what you both created, I realized what fear had made of us. He looked at the grave and knelt down, placing a small crystal on the stone. It glowed softly, showing a memory. Lyra's face, smiling gently, her voice whispering, Don't be afraid of the stars. They were meant to be shared. Ethan felt tears in his eyes. Is that really her? He asked. Siren nodded. Her consciousness remains. Recorded through the energy she released, we preserved it as a guide. For a long time, they stood in silence, the human and the alien united by loss. Then Siren spoke again. We are rebuilding, he said. Our leaders have agreed to open a council, one that includes Earth. Ethan looked at him in disbelief. You mean peace? He asked. Siren smiled faintly. Peace, yes, and understanding, though both will take time. Ethan walked toward the observatory. Now rebuilt with new equipment, inside engineers, human and alien, worked side by side, building devices that could travel beyond the solar system. They called it the Dawn Project. Its goal was simple, to connect Earth with other worlds, not through war but through hope. Siren followed him inside, watching the humans work. They are fast learners, he said quietly, so full of fire. Ethan smiled. That's humanity for you, he said. We break, but we rebuild stronger. A young engineer waved at Ethan from across the room, holding a glowing cube. Sir, the new beacon is ready, she said. It can reach 3 systems away. Ethan nodded, his eyes shining. Good, he said. Let's send it. It's time to say hello properly. As the beacon powered up, the sky above the observatory shimmered with blue light. Messages began to spread across the stars. Human voices mixed with alien tones, words of greeting, curiosity, and hope. On distant worlds, receivers blinked to life, and new voices began to answer. The galaxy, once divided by fear, was listening again later that night. Ethan stood alone outside looking at the stars. He could almost hear Lyra's voice in the wind. You kept your promise, she whispered softly. You remembered who you are, he smiled faintly, his hand resting on the silver stone. Yeah, he said, but I wish you could see this above him. One of the Valor ships broke formation and hovered low over the valley. Its lights formed a symbol in the sky, the mark of unity between Earth and Valor. People across the planet saw it, and for the first time, humanity cheered for something born from the stars, not against them. As dawn broke, the light of 2 worlds merged. Blue and gold, and a new era began, one built on the courage of one human and the compassion of one alien. They had proved that strength was not just in power, but in understanding, and that sometimes saving the universe began with a single act of kindness. Ethan took one last look at the rising sun. The world was quiet again, but not the same. There was peace now, fragile, bright, and real, and somewhere deep among the stars, a soft voice whispered through the ether, Hope is the most human thing of all.